Hi all, this video is going to be about May-June 2022 English A Paper 2. Alright, so our summary extract is alternative sentencing, and it goes: we respond emotionally to the many reports of crime we read about and see on television, and we want to throw into prison everyone convicted of a crime. But the cost of maintaining those imprisoned becomes a punishment for the taxpayers. Prisons are not only very costly to run, but they are now producing more repeat offenders than reformed citizens. Prisons are not only dangerously overcrowded, but prison programs are completely insufficient to rehabilitate criminals or help them to re-enter society as productive citizens. The number of repeat offenders tells us this. Taken from family and friends, deprived of normal relationships and privacy, sometimes forced to accept things that are demeaning, the prisoner is constantly reminded of his misdeed. Many persons who have studied this issue are not surprised that when these prisoners are released, they become hostile, bitter, depressed people who lack the motivation to become useful citizens. One management solution offered is to reduce the population inside of the prisons, as well as the cost of prisoner maintenance in the nation. The proposal is to hold in the prisons those guilty of violent crimes and to allow judges to construct meaningful ways of punishing non-violent offenders. Some of these non-violent offenders are overpunished by jail term sentences, while many rich and influential offenders face little deprivation while in jail and are often able to maintain their power and status from jail. Instead of automatically choosing a jail sentence for non-violent criminals, some judges have begun to order such offenders to perform a set number of hours of community service tailored to the criminal and the crime committed. With the option of alternative sentencing, judges will be able to devise sentences that, while punishing the offender, also benefit the community. One such sentence, which a judge gave to an offender who had killed a man while driving drunk, illustrates how the community can benefit from an offender who had an alternative sentence. The driver was allowed to continue working so that his family would not have to go on welfare, thus saving the taxpayers' money. The offender had to live at the county jail and pay for his room and board there. For 1 year, he was ordered to work 200 hours in a hospital trauma center and to spend 200 hours on the lecture circuit describing the catastrophic results of his actions. Sentences like this one benefit everyone involved and help us realize how conventional sentences can sometimes be worthless. Okay, let's take a look at our points. So the 5 main points are: many people believe prison sentences are the only serious punishment for criminals, but that is expensive. Point 2, prison does not always reform offenders and may expose them to worse criminal influences. Number 3, imprisonment separates offenders from family, friends, privacy, and normal relationships, which may make rehabilitation harder. Alternative sentencing can reduce prison overcrowding and allow punishment to match the offender and the crime. Non-violent offenders may benefit more from community service repayment or other punishments that make them take responsibility. Alright, let's read the summary now. Alternative sentencing may be more useful than imprisonment for some offenders. Although many people believe criminals should be placed in prison, it does not always reform them. Instead, it may expose minor offenders to hardened criminals and separate them from family and normal relationships, making rehabilitation difficult. In addition, alternative sentencing can reduce prison overcrowding and allow judges to match the punishment to the offender and the offense. This is useful for non-violent offenders who may be overpunished by jail terms. Judges can order offenders to repay victims, perform community service, or assess people affected by similar harm. As a result, these punishments may help offenders understand the consequences of their actions and can sometimes be more effective than prison. Okay, let's take a look at the next section of the paper. So the due date for your English school-based assessment or SBA project is May 5th, 2022. However, on the 3rd of May 2022, a fire at your home destroyed everything, making it impossible for you to meet the given deadline. You have been staying with relatives and need additional time to complete the assignment. Write an email to your English teacher, Mr. Jeremy Coffey, in which you inform him of the incident and request an extension of the submission date to the 31st of May 2022. Make sure to include all relevant details in the email to your teacher. So we have to jeremy.coffee@email.com. Subject: request for extension on SBA English A SBA project. Dear Mr. Coffee, I am writing to inform you about an unfortunate incident which has prevented me from completing and submitting my English A school-based assessment project by the due date of the 5th of March 2022. On the 3rd of May 2022, 5th of May. On the 3rd of May 2022, there was a fire at my home. The fire destroyed many of our belongings, including my textbook, school supplies, notes, and the device of which I had been working on my SBA. As a result, I lost the work I had already completed and several pieces of information that I needed to finish the assignment. Since the incident, my family and I have been staying with relatives while we try to recover from what happened. I sincerely apologize for not being able to submit the project on time. I understand the importance of the SBA and I know that deadlines must be respected. However, because of the fire and the disruption it has caused, I am kindly requesting an extension of the submission date to the 31st of May 2022. The extra time would allow me to rewrite the sections that were lost, gather the necessary information again, and prepare the project properly. I am willing to show proof of the incident if required. I will also make every effort to complete the SBA before the extended deadline. I will be grateful for your understanding and consideration during this difficult time. Thank you for your patience and support. I look forward to your positive response. Yours respectfully, Alexandra Henderson. Now if we go to the narrative section, we couldn't really see the picture here, so we decided we'll go with this worded prompt. Marcel's heart pounded in her chest as she ran, hoping and praying that she could survive. Write a story which includes this sentence. Okay, so we included it as the very first line. Marcel's heart pounded in her chest as she ran, hoping and praying that she could survive. Behind her, branches snapped and leaves shook violently as the two men forced their way through the dark bushes. She could hear their angry voices calling out to each other, getting closer with every second. Her school bag bounced painfully against her back, but she did not dare stop. Inside it was a small black flash drive her brother had hidden before he disappeared. Only an hour earlier, Marcel had been helping her grandmother close the little parlor near the main road. Everything had seemed normal until a wounded man stumbled into the shop. It was her brother Andre. His shirt was torn, his lip was bleeding, and fear filled his eyes. Take this, he whispered, pressing the flash drive into her palm. Do not let them get it. Go to the police station. Before Marcel could ask a question, a car screeched outside. Andre pushed her through the back door, and told her to run. Now, as the forest swallowed the last of the evening light, she wished she had never looked back. Her foot struck a root, and she fell hard into the dirt. Pain shot through her knee. For a moment, she stayed there, gasping while the sounds behind her grew louder. Then she saw a narrow drain half hidden by vines. Without thinking, she crawled inside and pulled loose branches over the opening. The men burst into the clearing seconds later. She must be near, said one. One said. Marcel held her breath. Sweat ran down her face and mud soaked her uniform. One of the men stepped so close that she could see his boots through the leaves. Her fingers tightened around the flash drive. If they found her, everything Andre had risked would be wasted. Then, from the distance, a siren wailed. The men cursed. Move, police! Their footsteps faded quickly. Marcel waited until the forest became quiet again before crawling out. Trembling, she limped forward toward the road, following the the flashing blue lights ahead. When a police officer saw her, he ran towards her and called for help. At the station, Marcel handed over the flash drive. It contained evidence of a robbery ring involving the same men who had chased her. Later that night, Andre was found injured but alive. As Marcel sat beside him in the hospital, he squeezed her hand weakly. She smiled through the tears. She had been terrified, but she had survived. And because she had refused to give up, the truth had survived with her. That's the end of the story. Let's look at our argumentative prompt now. Alright, now let's look at our argumentative essay. So the prompt is, all secondary school students must complete a 2-week compulsory class on protecting the environment during their summer vacation. Write an essay giving your views on this statement. The argumentative we have is, environmental destruction is becoming a serious problem in many countries, including the Caribbean. That's our hook. Since young people are the future citizens and leaders of society, they should be taught how to care for the environment from an early age. That is our background information. All secondary students should complete a 2-week compulsory class on protecting the environment during their summer vacation because it would educate young people, build responsible habits, and help protect the country's natural surroundings. Then certainly, students do not fully understand the seriousness of environmental problems, such as pollution, deforestation, flooding, and climate change. A 2-week class would give them enough time to learn about recycling, proper waste disposal, water conservation, energy saving, and the protection of the environment. When students understand how human actions destroy the environment, they are more likely to make better decisions for themselves. In addition, the class would help students develop habits that they can practice at home, in school, and their communities. For example, they may learn to separate garbage, reduce plastic use, reuse materials, conserve electricity, and avoid littering. These habits may seem small, but if many students practice them daily, they can help make a meaningful difference. Furthermore, the program could include practical activities such as beach cleanups, tree planting, school garden projects, visits to recycling centers. This would make the class more interesting and effective because students may not only hear about protecting the environment but also take action. As a result, they may develop a stronger sense of responsibility toward the environment. In conclusion, a compulsory environmental class is a good idea. It can educate citizens, encourage responsible behavior, and help create cleaner, safer communities. Therefore, all secondary school students should complete this program during the summer vacation. Alright, that is the end of this paper, everyone. Thank you for watching.